that's really a question for Canelo. I can't answer that. Canelo has a great fight coming up against Kovalev, and what we can do in the future after that, we'll have to see.
Tom, Eddie told me that Gennady was ill during the week. Were you considering pulling him out? And
No,
how bad was the illness?
He wasn't that ill. He was ill, but he wasn't ill to the point where the fight was in jeopardy. The worst I've ever seen him was the Rosado fight, the second time on HBO, and we knew if we would have pulled him out of that fight, it would have really put a setback on his career on the fast track on HBO. So with Rosado, he had the flu. Here, I would categorize it as, more of a head cold, which never is comfortable, but certainly that can't be used as an excuse because he fought a tremendous fight. He knocked Derevyanchenko down in the first round, opened up that big cut in the second round. So even though he was a little bit ill during the week, I don't think that really affected his performance. Naturally, you'd like to go in 100%, but over the years, I've realized that it's rare when a fighter's 100%. But the Triple G we saw tonight was put on a tremendous performance.
Is 68 an option with Callum Smith at Anfield? Has Eddie talked to you about that?
I think look, Callum Smith is.
He's got a fight coming up as well.
He's got a fight coming up, but I think that's one of the options. We'll have to see what's out there at middleweight. And then we'll weigh out the options. We've said that in the past, starting from Chavez Jr. when we talked about that fight, talked about the Carl Froch fight at 168. If there's a compelling fight, look, Carl Froch would have been a great fight. It would have sold out Wembley Stadium. He did 80,000 people when he fought there.
Did he? We've heard that a lot.
Reportedly, allegedly, but no. If he would have fought Triple G, I think we would have done the numbers that AJ did with Vladimir. I think he would have broken that record. But look, Carl was on the end of his career at that point, and that fight didn't happen. But those are the type of fights. Look, if you can sell out Wembley Stadium and fight a guy like Carl Froch, then it makes sense to go to 168. Callum Smith could make sense, but he's going to see what the options are at 168 pounds. But the great thing now is not only the Canelo fight, but there's other tremendous matchups. Murata in Japan would be a great fight for Triple G. Billy Joe Saunders is a fight we've tried to make for years and years, and it never materialized. Andrade was there in the ring trying to stir up some type of controversy. It was a little bit bad timing because both guys were such a tough fight, and then he was in there really trying to, I wouldn't say provoke Triple G, but he's asking for a fight against these guys. So there are some great fights up there, some great matchups, both at 160 and 168. Just for him to move to 168, it has to be that much more of a marketable fight than whatever he could do at 160 pounds, because otherwise it just wouldn't make sense to go to 168.
Okay, cheers, Tom. Thank you.
You could see that his eyes were really closing. I was in the back with both guys when they got checked by the doctors, and his eyes were really starting to close quickly. No, Derevyanchenko's eyes, because look, every 3 minutes, Mike Basil got a chance to work on those eyes and keep him in the fight. But as soon as it was maybe 15-20 minutes of no work on him, they were closing fast. They were swelling fast. Both those eyes are going to be completely shut tomorrow.
What'd you make of what Keith Connolly and Lou said about the fight?
Well, whenever there is a fight at this high of a level, it's a middleweight world championship fight at Madison Square Garden. There's a lot at stake. So the people that don't get the decision are naturally going to be emotional. We were very emotional with the Canelo decisions, and then people kept saying we were dwelling on it, but we truly believe that Triple G won the fight, in addition to the majority of the ringside media, the vast majority of the ringside media, with the Canelo fights. With this fight here, it was a close fight. I think with the power shots that Triple G landed, the knockdown, the cut, I think that all added up. Plus, he closed the fight strong. He won the championship rounds. I think definitely 11 and 12. maybe going back to 10, 11, and 12. So when you win those championship rounds, plus you get the knockdown, really it takes 6-6 and plus the knockdown, and you get decision. So it's not too hard a math. The first fight with Canelo, that math was hard for me to figure out how the judges figured out to give a 10-2 round and a draw for that first round. But this one here wasn't too hard for me to figure out. I figured in my scoring that Triple G had won the fight, but you never know. It was a close fight. You never know until the judges actually read the scorecards.
A lot of people.
You had a chance to talk to Gennady after the fight, after the fans reacted how they did. What did Gennady say to you? What was his mentality post-fight?
He was happy. He's a two-time middleweight champion now. He's going to try to extend that championship run that he had with 20 title defenses in the first round. So now we'll see how far the second run is going to go for him. There's some great fights out there, great matchups. We were talking about potentially a Murata fight in Japan. That's a huge international event, fighting really a Japanese folk hero. And a world champion. Well, Murata's a world champion, but also a world champion, tabbed to be a Hall of Famer with Triple G, going over there to Japan. That's one fight, but there's a lot of other fights out there that are very interesting. Derevyanchenko was on the show. He's an undefeated fighter from Poland. That could be interesting. Andrade was there in the ring afterwards, trying to provoke Triple G. Eddie has Billy Joe Saunders. I mean, the list goes on. So we'll sit down to see what direction to go into. Now that he's a champion again, we have the directions of the sanctioning body. So we'll have to figure out first what they're looking at and what DAZN's looking at, and then what Gennady decides to do on his side.
How much pressure are you and DAZN going to put on Canelo? Because you named all those fights, great fights, Tom, but we all know it. It's not the fights that we want to see. We want to see the third fight. Everybody wants to see a third fight.
Hey, we thought the third fight was going to happen September 14th, but we did do 2 fights with the Canelo. It wasn't easy to do those fights. We had to make a lot of concessions on our side. Canelo's vacated the title before to not fight Triple G when he didn't feel the timing was right, and I don't think he felt the timing was right for whatever reason. September 14th, even though I think DAZN, that was really in their plans with that big contract that they gave him. If it's not in Canelo's plans, you can't force a guy to get in the ring with Triple G. We learned that a long time ago. Canelo's not the only one that didn't want to get in the ring with Triple G. There's many other champions that don't want to get in the ring with him. Now, we thought it'd be easier to make the Canelo fight, but it sounds like he's got other plans, at least for this fight, and then we'll see what DAZN, they have to sit down with Canelo and Golden Boy, and if Canelo is successful, or regardless what happens with the Kovalev fight, I have to see what they can work out with Canelo to try to put, because really it's the fight that the fans want to see. Gennady had a huge crowd tonight, put on a tremendous performance here at the Garden. It's a second home, fought here 7 times, but it's the fans that are going to demand that third Canelo fight, and I think it's going to show on the pressure whatever DAZN puts on Canelo. But if Canelo comes out and is an exciting fight with Kovalev, Triple G just had an exciting fight. Triple G's never in a boring fight. He might fight some guys, even guys that move around a lot. He makes exciting fights.